The most consequential 2 weeks in rates since the pandemic wound up inflation. It's gross. It's nasty out there. But there are some good things as far as structural news that we've gotten about mortgages from FHFA, particularly Fannie and Freddie. There's some things strengthening on that regard. Maybe that's some damage control.
So what we're seeing in the mortgage industry right now is the start of some deregulation, right?
Yes.
Waiting periods for disclosures, what it takes to approve an appraisal, okay? Going to be loosening up, some general just loosening up. Nothing too impactful as far as like, hey, if you're buying a house or refinancing, is it going to be a huge impact on you? Not really. It might just make things a little easier, but it's not necessarily going to make things any cheaper. So what we're facing, and we don't know what we're facing here with this situation in Iran, but you can say even at the very best case scenario at this point is it's going to create more inflation. And with the last inflation reading that we had, which was last week, the producer price index is much higher than expected.
And that was pre-spike in petroleum.
Yeah.
And
so there's a lot of inflationary pressures baked in. We're going to have higher inflation than what everybody's expecting. The longer this conflict goes on, the worse it's going to be and the more permanent it's going to be. But it's already at a point where we're going to have inflation. And some of there's a question of how much, what happens in other countries and how their costs are going to go up or affect ours too. But the UK last week said that they're pausing rate and might actually have to raise rates. And so when that happens, when other countries raise rates, it puts our bonds in less favor. Even if we don't raise rates, our bond market still adjusts to the higher interest rate environment.
So where by default, it's like we did it anyway.
And that's what happened Friday. And we had a major spike in interest rates on Friday because the UK came out and said they're stopping their dropping of rates and are considering even raising rates. Now, the UK is actually going to be potentially much more affected by inflation, the whole European Union, more than us, because they run a lot of their infrastructure off of liquid natural gas, okay? Which we just decided to blow up 20% of the liquid natural gas reserves in the entire world, and it's going to be offline for 3 to 5 years.
Yep.
3 to 5 years. So we just obliterated, energy infrastructure that we actually, live off of.
And in response, another facility on the western side, either Qatar or Bahrain, was annihilated by Iran. So, you not only have Karg Island, which supplied a great deal of LNG, you also have this. It's awful. Well, because and Germany is hugely impacted by this as well, because most of Germany's heating runs off of liquefied natural gas.
Yeah. So they have major inflation. As of right now, with that chain of events, their inflation is going to be much worse than ours, because I think their energy costs could go up by 300-400%. I mean, really, really spike. So that's going to flow through to all their goods and everything, and they might have to raise interest rates. And it would make it really, really difficult for us to cut rates when they're raising rates. Economically, it's just not a great situation, right? It's not what we want to see. There's not going to be, in my opinion, I've looked at this at length, there's not a situation of where, hey, we're going to go through pain now in this particular situation to get better outcome later economically. It's just going to be worse.
Right. This isn't even necessarily...
Now, is it going to be devastating? We don't know. It depends on how long the conflict goes on, but it's just not going to be as good as the trajectory we're on. And, I think there's going to be consequences in midterms for that. So, hey, if it was resolved today, okay, and we have this 48-hour window, that Trump threatened, maybe 5 days now, and again, we've seen this kind of stuff before, but if we go in and we just blow up all their power plants, number one, that's a war crime. And number two, Iran is just going to devastate our assets over there. I mean, they're just going to rip that apart. They're not going to open the strait. It would really become a very bad situation really fast. So this is kind of a really crucial week. I mean, And the Iranians specifically this morning or last night specifically said that they were going to target countries that bought our treasuries. They specifically said that. So they're actually attacking our bond market, which is mortgages, which is like, so basically the mortgage industry is at war with Iran. We're a target. It's like,
you can't call them dumb. You can't call Iran dumb for their strategy in this war so far.
No, they've been preparing it for like 40 years.
They've had a game plan in place, and they've executed it. Attacking the OPEC countries, I don't think it's something that we even foresaw, but it worked.
We did. We just decided to ignore that as a retaliation from them. And they're better at modern warfare than we are, okay? Because
asymmetric.
They are taking the tactics that worked in Ukraine and they're using them, and they supply the Russians with drones in Ukraine. And we're going in with this super expensive stuff.
A Shahed drone costs about $7,500 to produce.
And, we had a $400 million fighter plane get hit by a $30,000 drone last week. It didn't take it out, but it got hit. And it's like, well, that's a little bit of a mismatch there. That was $400 million. Nothing should be able to shoot that. They got this guy in some crappy, drone built in a cave, takes it down. It's like, oh my gosh.
Let's also understand though that costs are a mutable thing. So, for example, a B-52 bomber during World War II cost the modern equivalent about $125,000 to produce. A B-52 bomber. Our costs are what they are because of our relationship with the military-industrial complex.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but you have to understand.
It's part of the reason why we don't want to make cheap drones and this new modern warfare stuff, because the contractors don't make money on it, right?
Yeah.
So, and that, unfortunately, is a real thing. So, well, to look at the predictions and the economic impact, it really, really is hard to say what the outcome of this situation is going to be. This is a really pivotal week, especially with these threats. Trump said that he's having conversations with the Iranians. He said he's done that before, and they said, no, we're not. So we don't know if that's really true. But it's definitely better for the best interest of America is for this conflict to be over, because this is going to have a pretty serious economic impact on us, and it's basically inflation.
Now,
so
at one point, I'm not sure everyone understands, because I've heard a number of people that say, cause it's not something that's really popularly known. If you look at a piece of plastic, odds are very good that its core ingredients came through the Strait of Hormuz. Any piece of plastic that there is. Every piece of plastic is a petroleum-based product. So when we're talking about this, when we're talking about the amount of damage that the closing the Strait of Hormuz is doing, it is not limited to, it's not as simple as let's drive less as a country, right? It
literally impacts every fabric of our society.
Yes.
And that's just, that's what a interconnected world is like. It's like, hey, there's these choke points that are there, which Iran just strategically happens to hold on to. So
some people have drawn maps saying, let's just cut across Qatar and Oman and put a pipeline over the center. No. You have to build a massive harbor for it. That is 20 years in the future. That's 20 years.
It's just not feasible,
right? What's more feasible is working with the situation that we have. And to be clear, it is not expensive on Iran's part to, quote, close the Strait of Hormuz, nor is it feasible for us to try to defend it in any meaningful way. You can't armor tankers. You can't armor every oil and gas tanker that goes to the Strait of Hormuz. And we are talking about drones that cost under $10,000 to develop, cannot be reliably picked up on radar, and easily have a 30-mile range into the Strait of Hormuz to attack every practical target. And all you got to do these are tankers filled with explosive materials.
Yeah.
Right?
And
that can't be armored. That can't be armored.
So they just, the only way we could force them to open the Strait of Hormuz with full-on ground invasion. And I mean, that would just be a total disaster. So I mean, I don't know if that's on the table, but we can't actually open it. Even we don't have the military assets to even run convoys through. And our allies are not. They're not going to help us either. They pretty much said that while the conflict is still ongoing. So
America has not militarily defeated a nation that was not a cult of personality in 110 years. Here's the differential, right? So we go back to World War II, we go to Iraq, we go to conflicts like Grenada. Those are autocracies. They are based on the power of one person, right? Those are extremely fragile power structures. Mm-hmm. We lost Vietnam. We lost Afghanistan. And if you think that's harsh language, what was our stated goal in Afghanistan? We lost, right? Afghanistan is a lost conflict.
Yeah, we gave it back to them.
Yeah.
We gave up.
Vietnam was
Same
a
thing.
lost American war.
Yeah.
Korea, China is not an autocracy. Mm-hmm. We lost the Korean War is a little fuzzier because I mean it's a split differential, right? Mm-hmm. But Vietnam lost, not an autocracy. Had a couple of Viet Cong commanders that had some name recognition, but they were not a head of one snake.
Yeah.
We have lost every conflict that was against a nation state that had a revolving bench of political leadership. And I see no reason that Iran would be different because we would just get sick of it. That's what happened to Afghanistan. We got sick of it. We were there for 20 years.
The problem with Iran versus Afghanistan is Iran has way more power over the world economy.
Oh my God.
And Afghanistan was kind of like, not to sound insensitive, but we could blow up the entire country. It really wouldn't affect the world economy, okay? And we kind of did. Iran's a way different player, and they have way more leverage. They're really tied to Russia and China. They're an oil producer, and it's just a different animal. So,
and they have plausible ground-based contacts through military personnel. If it were to come to the point that Iran,
they're ready
Russia and China,
they're ready for it.
Chose to materially support it, and they are getting material support from Russia and China in some ways. Not in.
So look at it. Do you know much about the 70s oil embargo and what that did? Do you know the history of that? Or, I mean, I know just the basics of it, but right? I mean, basically, we got cut off from oil from the Middle East,
yes.
Right? And then we had, I don't think we're going to see that.
No,
scenario just because we have so much domestic production.
And also, we are friends
with
with Saudi and other places that OPEC. Yeah. OPEC cut us off then. Iran's going to now the Strait of Hormuz doesn't help, but there are other ways to get. There are other vectors to. Some can go through other places than the Strait of Hormuz.
So
right?
we're better equipped now to deal with that
production.
So that pushed mortgage rates to 17%, something like that.
Yeah, chain reaction, but yeah.
I mean, I don't want to sound negative, right? But I think this could push rates to 8 to 10%. Even
if it goes unchecked.
If it goes unchecked. And I think there's maybe a 2-week to a month window of where we need to have this conflict resolved, or we're going to see that style of inflation that will put rates that high. So now when you talk about what that would do to the housing market, well, prices will come down.
Yeah.
Right? They have to, because there's just not going to be enough demand. So that, at the end of the day, isn't the worst thing for a lot of people. Right? If prices come down, you have more inventory, but you might be able to lock in a price that's really good. And then, probably if it gets to that point, probably by mid-2028, we would start seeing rates come down, and then it's an opportunity to refi. But ultimately, when you're buying a house, the most important thing is the house itself, right? Because the rate is not permanent, right? The rate can change. So, there is a silver lining here for people to say, like, if we go through this, it could be painful, but it could bring that price versus income more in equilibrium, especially after rates go down and people are able to refinance. So, but I think it is a possibility to see it's possible to say we can hit double-digit rates. I mean, this is a very inflationary what's happening with it. So,
and if inflation gets bad enough, people will start to see the economic case beyond about having a real entry for migrant labor, right? That conversation
could force
will
the hand on a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And
so, well, it could also
force us to finally nationally have that conversation that we've delayed for 30 years.
Because the Trump administration, when they came in, they shut down every renewable project that was out there, right? So, you know, whether you like windmills or not, it still produces energy for the United States.
At the same price
and some of these
every
were
time.
2 months from coming online, all got shut down, basically banned. And which is stupid, I think, in my opinion. It's like whether you like oil, gas, natural, it's like we just should do it all, okay? Because we need the energy.
Energy resilience. For exactly this, it's anti-fragile.
Force the hand of a real energy revolution in the United States. And that's where our entrepreneurship really can shine through is, you know, you go through these periods. We might end up with a completely different energy infrastructure after going through the pain of inflation in the situation in the Middle East. So,
because China is more energy resilient than we are right now. China embraced solar big time. They're doing
everything.
Yeah.
So that's the thing is they're building tons of coal, okay, too, which is not renewable. It's dirty. They're doing tons of solar, tidal stuff. I mean, you know, they're really innovative with it. And, you know, we've decided to just shut everything off and just go oil and gas. And it's like, that's not the smartest thing to do. I mean, we need to develop these technologies. So that could be something that comes out of this. The question is,
how much pain do we get?
How much pain do we have to go through to get there? So there was already some that is baked in that is going to happen, okay? Rates are going to rise, okay? Everybody just be prepared for it. They're going to go up. We just don't know how high they're going to go and how long they're going to be there. So, because
I don't think 8's very far away, Nick.
When we get these inflation numbers coming out in 3 months from now, there's no way they're going to be in projections with what we are expecting. They're definitely going to be higher, and it's definitely going to push rates higher. So, and that would be if the war stopped today. I mean, we would still go through this blip of inflation. You know, in the past when we had these wars overseas, it's so almost like disconnected from people because it doesn't impact their daily life unless you're like a military family, right? So this is gonna be different. Yeah, this is actually gonna have an impact on daily life. And the Iranians know this, and they're strategizing to hit us with inflation, right? That's their whole thing. They know exactly where to get us, and they know where we're vulnerable, and it's inflation. So,
and the Strait of Hormuz, the movement through it is not a universal ban. They've told Japan, yeah, you can move your oil through our strait under X, Y, and Z conditions, right? And
another thing they want to do is they want the oil to move through the strait to be traded in yuan, not the American dollar, which is they're trying to weaken the petrodollar. So, which again has major impacts for our bond market, and it's kind of changing of the world order. I mean, they're really trying to do that. So, bottom line, in my opinion, okay, and others might agree with me, this was the dumbest thing we could have done. It's ridiculous. I don't see any. This is so stupid. We got into this situation where Iran has all the leverage, unless we go in and nuke them, you know, or so. Which see how that works, but it's very frustrating. But we'll see how it plays out. Hopefully, it doesn't go on very long.
As far as the dumbest thing that we could have done, I mean, it's up there.
It's up there.
Of the things that are realistically on the table, because the amount of arrogance.
Well, it wasn't a Venezuela where we go in and just pluck their leader out.
It's an autocracy. It's power built around one guy, right? And there is actually a power structure underneath him, but that power structure was being suppressed.
Weak. It's super weak.
Yeah.
Iran's different.
Very different.
Kill one leader, there's another one that just comes right up. And it just so happens the next Ayatollah is way more radical.
Yeah, and we took out an Ayatollah who's 87 years old. Are you so arrogant to think that a country of Iran's size doesn't have succession planning for an 87-year-old head of state?
Yeah, I mean, it's so...
He was already on the way out.
If I could just be a fly on the wall in the Situation Room to listen to these people make the decision to do this, and just out of pure curiosity of what their logic was and how it's going to turn out. That'd be really interesting.
I'm not going to talk about what the logic was. That's going to take us to a dangerous place.
So anyway, well, we're going to finish it up here. This is going to be a very, very crucial week. And yeah, I think we're going to have, you know, depending on the outcome of this week in the next month, I mean, we're going to see what these economic impacts are going to be. But it's definitely something that's going to happen. I mean, it's already baked in that we're going to have an impact. The question is, how long is it going to go and how deep is it going to be?
If we have one saving grace, Nick, it's taco. Always chickens out.
Okay. See you guys.